Hello. So at the beginning of September, I made a video talking about how I hated reading and how this channel was going to be about challenging myself to read. Because I've written a book and it was very hard to come up with comp titles. And I realized, yeah, this is definitely something that I need to be doing. Even if I don't like it, I need to be treating it as part of the writing process. So I had 7 books that I had chosen, and I got through all of them. September 30th, I finished the final book. And as it turns out, I don't think I hate reading at all. So it's a really nice plot twist. So I made a video talking about 3 books that I'd finished, and now I have 4 books. And here are the books. I think I have to do this a different way. Can you see all of them? And because look what I've done. Oh, what did I do? What did I do? I want to talk about these books, but it's too much, and now because I've finished a couple of them, like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, it's hard for me to remember what I actually wanted to say, even though I have all these little tabs. So I think going forward, I might make discussion videos, with spoilers, like a discussion review with spoilers kind of thing, for each of the books individually. Oh my gosh, would I do that? Because I don't see the point, really. Okay, number one, talking about a book I've read, it motivates me to actually read the book. And number two, I can't read a book and then not talk about it. It'll just, I can't do it. I have to let it out. So for these, though, I don't know that I'll get into the kind of detail that I would have preferred to have kind of delved into, because it's a lot and I don't want like a 2-hour video. So kind of disappointing, because it's just a lot to talk about. So I'm going to start, though. The first book that I ended up reading out of this bunch was The Song of Achilles, but I'm going to talk about the first 15 lives of Harry August first, because there's not too much to say about it. The pink tabs are mistakes. I started marking the mistakes. I think an editor did not do her job very well. Or his job. So I was not bored, not one bit, reading this book. It was so engrossing. I loved it. It wasn't very emotional, kind of surprising. It was very matter of fact, which is, believable, I think, because that's what Harry said. The more lives he lived, it kind of dulled his senses, because it's so repetitive. And it must have been just depressing. And the whole having to relive his childhood thing over and over and over again. And so sad. But not very emotional, because it just kept happening, right? And so he told the story kind of like that. But you really have to suspend disbelief in the fact that this whole book was actually a letter that he was writing as he was dying from a horrible death. He had radiation poisoning, and so his body was just breaking down. Spoiler. But I was like, even with the mistakes, this is not possible that in a couple days he wrote this whole book. No. So you have to really just kind of go with the flow of that. But so very good. There was a few things that made no sense. One was a conversation he was having with Vincent, his nemesis, his friend. Oh, so they spent so much time together that I started wondering, how do you spend so much time with someone and then not kind of fall in love with them, because they were basically, because they weren't friends, but they were friends. And it was funny because, like, literally a page or two after I was really thinking about this, Clara North actually talked about that and how Harry would not be opposed to it. And I was like, you wouldn't be opposed to it? What are you talking about? You hate this man. Except he didn't. So, interesting dynamic between those two. And as someone who loves romance, the book was not, it wasn't lacking, even though there was no romance at all. It was solid book. I have a scene in the book that I wrote where it's kind of intellectually driven, having spirited debate, these two characters in my book. And maybe it's like 2,000 words, but I had to do hours and hours of research so that I knew what the heck I was talking about. And this whole book, I swear, reminded me of that conversation. So, really very nice. But something that confused me was a conversation that Vincent and Harry were having, where Harry, he was on like his 14th life, I think, at that point. And in his previous life, Vincent thought he wiped Harry's memory. So Vincent thinks that Harry doesn't know that he lives his life over and over again. But Harry knows what Vincent did to him. And so they're having this conversation as Harry now has cancer and he's going to be dying soon. He's like, what if I told you that I've had cancer before and I died? And so a very strange conversation happened because Vincent tried to ask him about the Cronus Club. And the Cronus Club is like the club where all these people who I can't say the name if I don't see it. All the people who keep reliving their life over and over again, they find each other. Cronus Club. And so he's like, do you know about the Cronus Club? And Harry is not falling for that trap. And he's like, no, I'm trying to tell you something. And Vincent's like, yeah, you're trying to tell me that you've lived this life before. You were born an orphan and you lived and you died, and when you were born again you were still you, precisely where you started. That is what you're saying, isn't it? And so Harry's like silent, and then he says, how? Tell me how, please. How what? I think that part might have made sense. How? Unless I really think anyway. See, that's the thing. I always thought that with writing, each paragraph kind of belonged to a different speaker, but I've noticed that like in first person narratives anyway, there can be like the narrator kind of reacting to the person, but then someone else, the other person, starts talking in that paragraph. So maybe I'm just confusing, I don't know, but whatever. Vincent's like, come with me, Harry, there's something I need to show you. And so he shows him this like crown of wires and electrodes. And so he's going to try and wipe Harry's memory again. Bad. And then, so do you trust me? Yes, absolutely. Harry, Vincent explained softly, you asked me how I know about your predicament, how I know about your past life, why I believe you when you say that you have died once before. I was like, when did I read that? It was so weird because Harry, up further than that, I'm going kind of out of order, I'm sorry. Harry's like to Vincent, you haven't said how you know. I was like, what are you talking about? Vincent never said that he knows anything. So I just feel like maybe Claire North, which is apparently a pseudonym, need never to work with this editor again. The editor really let her down, I think. I feel like with the amount of books that Claire North writes, she's busy, that maybe she just doesn't spend as much time with the editing process and relies on her editor, but I don't. There was another sentence that made no sense. So there was this whole conversation that made no sense, and then there was the sentence that made no sense. But it didn't ruin the book for me at all. Still 5 out of 5, I would say. Very good, extremely good. And it was nominated for like 3 awards and won 1, I think. So, very nice. Good pick, good pick. Really thought it was going to be too difficult to read. So, when I was reading reviews about it, some people were like, I don't even know what's going on. And so, I never, ever had a problem understanding what was going on. So, either that person wasn't paying attention, or I can give myself a pat on the back. So the next book I finished was The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. Absolutely fantastic, 5 out of 5. It was beautiful, it was wonderful, it was tragic. The whole thing about Patroclus sleeping with that girl, though, they never even brought it up again. So I really had to put my thinking cap on and figure out why Madeline did this, because I have a feeling that Homer did not do that. If you did, you can let me know. But so I had to figure out, why would she have Patroclus sleep with this freaking girl that he doesn't like, she doesn't like him, he's in love with Achilles. Ugh. So I thought it really kind of solidified his decision, or lack thereof, to be with Achilles, and that he was not interested in women, or who knows, maybe he wasn't interested in anyone but Achilles. That would be nice. But when we got to Briseis, I really liked her and Patroclus. I liked their relationship. And so I was like, oh, this is why Patroclus slept with that girl, to kind of set a precedence for the fact that he is also interested in girls, like he's bisexual. But he never slept with Briseis. He did not want to be with her, even though there were moments where he was like, I wonder what life would be like with her. Like, if I wasn't with Achilles, maybe this would have been my life. I hate to say it, but I kind of wouldn't have minded that. Like, it was written so well. That was like, and Achilles, such an ego on that guy. Holy crap. That I wouldn't have really, the whole cheating thing I wouldn't have been cool with, but I could see why that would have been something to explore. But he never did, because he loves Achilles. So it's like, yeah, so why did you sleep with that other girl? You could say, oh, he's young, he's curious. I'm not so sure about that. It didn't seem like that at all. So I think maybe it was to solidify his sexuality and show the reader, maybe, because this was written like 10 years ago, I think, at this point. Maybe the reader would be like, how does Patroclus know that he wants to be with Achilles? Wow, he's never been with a girl or anything. Maybe he actually would, since he and Achilles have been together in their life for so long. And they grew up together. Maybe Patroclus is just too, I don't know. But so that's something that I was thinking. And so it kind of solidified his sexuality. And the other thing I was thinking is that even though there are kind of different statuses in their life, Achilles now has had this experience that Patroclus has not. And so it kind of makes them, they're not on even ground anymore. They're not equals. And so having Patroclus sleep with a girl does it have to be the same girl? I think it makes sense that it was the same girl, I guess. Kind of put them back on an even playing field, I guess. I don't know why it was even in the book. I don't think I would have done that if I had written it. So the whole present tense, I was keeping my eye out on it, and it happened again. And I went back to the beginning of the book and I went through every single page, and there were 2 instances prior to the one that first caught my attention. And I was like, why is she doing this? So there's a total of 6 times that she went into present tense in the whole last like 30 pages or so, present tense. I was like, why? Why? When you read about how to write well, okay, it's fine. If you go into present tense and you were telling your story in past tense, it's fine. I just want a reason for it. I want to understand that there's a reason for it. And I did not see any reason whatsoever. Nothing. So strange. The whole gods interfering with humanity, very annoying, because they were treating it too much like a game, and I did not appreciate that at all. It was weird. Ego. I like the complexity of all the characters, and is kind of disappointed as I was in Achilles I wasn't really disappointed. I was disappointed that he would let Patroclus. Did I mention that there's going to be tons of spoilers in these videos? Tons. The reason, like, how could he let Patroclus go out dressed like him? That was, like, granted, Patroclus really made a case for how he was going to, you know, make everything, it would be a win-win situation for everyone if he did that. So I understood it, but I didn't understand how, I don't know. So Achilles with his ego, that's one thing, but then Achilles with his pride, I understood where he's coming from, so I couldn't really fault him for not wanting to help the Greeks, because Agamemnon, is that who it was? I think that's who it was. Too prideful, like neither would bend. And of course, I think it shouldn't have been up to Achilles. He was in the right. But everyone's dying. And then you let Patroclus go out. So tragic. I loved the end of this book. I wasn't really sure if Madeline could really pull it off. I didn't know. And I personally don't think I would ever write an ending like that, but it worked so well, and it was so beautiful. I couldn't imagine a better ending, to be honest. It was perfect. I loved it. 5 out of 5. Definitely. I think she's only written 2 books at this point. I think another one's going to be coming out, but Greek mythology. And so her like simple writing style, I think, really complements the just this kind of topic, this kind of era. How do you even, Greek mythology, it complements it very well. So I'm kind of curious to know how she would write if it was a contemporary, because I don't think you can really write a contemporary the way she wrote this book. But very well. Very good. Super good. Like, if I was going to reread a book, I don't think I'm really interested in rereading books, but I could see myself rereading that book because it was so good. I wanted more Achilles and Patroclus, but what are you going to do? So, after the Song of Achilles, I went to read Strange the Dreamer because I did not want to read The Astonishing Color of After. Oh, jeez. But when I was reading Strange the Dreamer, I only had, I think I had 8 or 9 days left, or less. Like somewhere around maybe 8 days, or a week, something. And I was like, I have to finish before, the end of September. And Strange the Dreamer was really, I took my time reading it. And I'm a slow reader to begin with, but I was like drinking in every single word. And I was like, this is ridiculous. Number one, I don't want my last book of the month to be a book that I don't like. And number two, if I can just hurry up and get Astonishing Color of After out of the way, then I can devote all my time to Strange the Dreamer. And number three, I am a gratification delayer anyway. So I put Strange the Dreamer down reluctantly and I picked up The Astonishing Color of After. I cannot tell you how disappointed I am in having used this book as a comp title. The Song of Achilles and Aristotle and Dante, I think the people who like those books would like my book, so I'm comfortable using those as comp titles. I hope it's accurate. But The Astonishing Color of After, Emily, I don't know. I don't get it. The reason I used it as a comp title is because people said it was really emotional. No. Okay, so I forced my eyes over every word, every line, just forced over. And so I read it. I saw someone on BookTube read this book in one day. Oh my gosh, I don't understand how. It took me 2 days to read the second half of this book, so it would have taken me 4 days to have read the whole thing. I made a few predictions, and 2 of them were right, so that was good. But when she revealed, like, kind of the twist, I guess, it was so flat. It was like, oh, and alright, so spoilers, right? So the girl that gave her the SIM card, she was so rude to that girl, Feng, that I was like, you're probably related to this girl. You keep yelling at her for not really being part of the family, and she's probably part of your family. So I was like, is she your mother's sister? Did your mother have a daughter and this is your sister? I found out the mother had a sister, I was like, did the sister have a kid and this is your cousin? Is this your... Yeah, so those were kind of the things that I was thinking. And then at one point, because they talked about ghosts so much, I was like, I think this lady could be dead. And so I was right. It was her dead aunt. Somewhere in there, I ended up being right about that. So it was nice to see that the clues were there to put it together. But then when she realized, or when she was like telling that, oh yeah, it was Fang. This is how she said it. She said, and beside my mother is her sister, Jingling, wearing a dress covered in flowers, varying reds and pinks and purples. So they're looking at a picture. Jingling. Or the woman I knew as Fang. Now I remember what she looked like. Now I can see it, clear as day. And I was like, wow, your big revelation that the woman you've been talking to isn't even alive. She's a ghost and no one can see her. So what were you doing this whole time? Were you just talking to yourself? Or were you having it like in your head? Like, what? So, magical realism is what they classify this book as. I felt like it was a complete cop-out. I wrote a bunch of stuff down. Let's see. Oh, okay. Okay, how do I do this? A few things that the author, sadly, found these ways. How do you explain this? So for instance, I'm like, why can't you just access the internet? Why can't you go into some kind of translator app, and just speak into it and then play it for her grandparents, and then they could have a conversation? Why does she need to draw pictures? Why does she need this translator thing just following them around, translating everything? Which, did she even translate anything if she was a ghost? Did Lee's words to her grandparents ever actually get there? Did her grandma see the ghost too? I don't know. But so in order to have this story work out, you cannot have internet access. So I think it would have been better to have placed this story before cell phones. But she wanted email in this book. So you have to push it forward into technology. And she was getting emails from her best friend, Axel, the whole time. But they had to have, or Emily had to have Lee act completely out of character. I don't buy for 1 second that she would not have responded to these emails, because if she had responded, then she would have realized, oh, you're not actually sending me these emails? My dead mother is sending me your unsent emails? But we can't have that now, can we? Caro, or Caro, I'll call her Caro. She is Lee's friend. And they both paint. And they're artists. And Caro is a lesbian, and she has a girlfriend. Wow. And she is just so easily brought into the fold, and oh, she's Lee's best friend, like Axel's her best friend. They hang out together, and I'm like, so no conflict at all. How easy is that? It's fine that her friend is gay, but it was just too convenient, because now she doesn't have to worry about Axel having a crush on her, or Caro having a crush on Axel. Like, there's no question about it. And so I was just like, it's just cop-outs. And speaking of cop-outs, the color gimmick in this book so did not work. If you wanted this to be a thing, Emily, then you should have just done some research on synesthesia. And I love color. Absolutely love anything that has to do with color and in writing, and don't make me hate colors. Oh my god. So what I did like, though, was that Lee always used charcoal. Axel always used watercolor, so he was already into the color thing, but she only ever used charcoal, so black and white, or he's using color. So I was like, well, obviously at the end of the book she's going to start painting in color, which she did. So, and her mom had given her like an art set with colors, and I'm like, why aren't you using the colors? But I feel like, as someone who likes metaphors, that's fine, but I kind of felt like she just didn't want to write. I don't know how to explain that. But at one point, her use of talking about colors got so on my nerve that I started marking them. I kind of want to go through every tab. I don't know if I will, but let's just see. If I start with the first tab, interesting. Sometimes when it gets all cyclical like this, I try to calm myself down by inventing new colors in my head. So I was like, yeah, this is not synesthesia. This isn't synesthesia. So it's disappointing. The blue tabs, I have a few blue tabs, are moments of awareness where the author knows there's something more she could be doing, but she chose not to. She chose to go magical realism rather than some kind of gritty, realistic book dealing with a character whose mom committed suicide. That this book could have been much more. This book was light. It was just light. Not a good kind of light. So let's see. The knock was something I'd imagined. I was certain of it. All the wishful thinking was manifesting in some form of psychosis. All the wishful thinking was manifesting in some form of psychosis. So the author is very well aware that there could be a deeper psychological story going on, but she completely destroyed it with magic incense and ghosts. Like, I was thinking, if it turns out Lee's in some kind of psychiatric ward having a mental breakdown, okay. If it was more along the lines of Challenger Deep, that's my kind of book. This magical realism, no. Let's see, I think this is color. Oh, no, this was not. I want to know where she was born and where she grew up, I say reluctantly, dragging the words out of my mouth, hating the sound of them in English. She has such like self-hatred for being born in America, and it really was annoying. Very annoying. The waiting room smelled toxic. Oh, the waiting room smelled toxic white, but felt traffic cone orange. She was the color of home. She was the color of home. Okay, what does that even mean? There is a parallel, kind of, that I want to make to Strange the Dreamer, but hopefully I'll remember to do that then. The reason she had to say on page 219 she was the color of home is to make this sentence work. The wind rises up to claim the gray, and then it's gone. We're left with the colors of after, the colors of now. What? It's not even the astonishing colors of now, it's just colors of now. Which there was a little link to that, but I was like, no, it's not working. I'm sorry, I know what you're trying to do, but it's just not working. Oh, so these green ones are when she says ultramarine. Can we go inside? My voice comes out all ultramarine. I don't know what that means. So, let's see the other ones. I go out walking around the city on my own, my every step heavy and ultramarine. No, I don't know what that means. Axel was the first one to let go. There was coldness left on the parts of my arms where his hands had held me. Ultramarine waves pouring through my body. No. And if you want to use the color ultramarine, do it once. Or tell me what it means so that the next time you use it, I understand. Because I just don't understand what that means. I don't get it. Strange, I echo, my voice coming out ash blue. No, I don't know what that means. That means nothing to me. Alright, so blue tab. I told you what blue means. Blue tabs, it means these specks of what could be more. There was one weekend when Caro and I spent our entire Saturday reading about tetrachromacy and trying to figure out if one or both of us might happen to have it. It's this extremely rare thing that means you can see colors that other people can't. So like a regular person might call a sky perfectly blue, while a tetrachromat insists that it's also red and yellow and green. And I got my hopes up. I was like, good, there's a reason for this color. Lee is a tetrachromacy or something. Tetrachromat. No, she's not. She's a poser is what she is. Don't like it? We could just, oh, so she's in a hotel room with the boy she likes, her best friend. she doesn't want him seeing her change her clothes. Oh, how forced was this? Instead of taking turns changing in the bathroom, they decide the bathroom is too gross, so they're going to just change in the room with their backs towards each other. And I'm like, you are going to have to piss at some point, right? You're going to have to go in the bathroom anyway. So I was like, ew, this is so forced. Please stop. So we could just change out here, whatever, backs turned or whatever. So they change, and she frickin' sneaks a peek. And I was so disgusted by that because I was like, you would have been mortified if he looked at you while you were changing. So please give your best friend the courtesy to not look at him. I don't know, just a turn off. We laugh about it, and then I never knew what happened to the actual paper. Oh, yeah, this made no sense. So there was like a picture that they drew of each other. Like, I think Axel drew one half, and she drew the other half, like of their faces or something. I can't remember. But she happened to come across, and she's like, oh, I never knew what happened to this. I'm like, sorry, I don't buy it. I think you would have kept it, and I think you would have cherished it. So, not buying it. So, blue tab. So the house is cracking. The ceiling above almost completely cracked. So she's seeing things. So I'm like, psychosis. This is something very serious that's happening to this girl. She's got some kind of PTSD, some kind of grief thing going on with her mother's death, and now she's having these psychotic episodes. Not really, no. But the blue tab, of course my grandmother doesn't see any of this. And so I was like, so your grandmother doesn't see any of it. So your grandmother also doesn't see ghosts. And when you lit the incense, did your grandmother also not go into that vision with you? But we're just going to call this magical realism so we don't actually have to put the work in. No, sorry. No. I gather up what I can, just 3 pieces of incense, 3 more chances to call up the memories, see the colors of the past, and try to understand. Yeah, I wish I could understand, but not really. Not really. I don't really care. I feel so bad. This just... I guess if I was younger, like maybe 12, this would be maybe profound. Maybe? I don't know. And it is a YA book, so maybe if a young person would find this profound. Could he see it in my eyes, the color of my missing him? No, he doesn't. Sorry. That's, no. So this was annoying. So she's like thinking about Caro, or Cheslin, Caro's girlfriend. And I'd see her in the streets or getting into a car or just walking around in her uniform. Back then, I would have guessed she was just a basic prep school girl. Goes to show how surprising people can be when you actually get to know them. And I was like, basic? As in what? Like, straight? Or not artistic? So if you're not artistic, if you don't like taking pictures, or if you're not gay, are you just basic? I don't know. Again, turn off. I didn't like it. I go out, oh yeah, ultramarine. Annoying. Ultramarine. It's not even the color that I think in my head. I think of an aqua color, and I'm pretty sure it's some kind of green color, I think. Yeah, it's annoying. So another blue tab. I've been shivering nonstop since our visit to the school, and as the day progresses, the hallucinations are flaring up again. So, hallucinations. Are you not worried about this? But still, magical realism. So, I mean, she does end up going, I think, to see like a counselor, a psychiatrist or something at the end, just, I think, to deal with the grief. But she was in like a coma basically for 3 days, and her dad just chalked it up to exhaustion. I don't know why I marked this. Why did I mark this? But I think the piece oh, yes. So the blue tabs acknowledge that the author knows there's something deeper she could be writing. The pink tabs, pink, 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 are when the author shows us insight into herself. So she's talking, so she's trying to get, she's trying to create like these pieces of art that she's going to show in like a gallery or something. And she's not impressed, and she's like, but I think the piece lacks emotion. Or no, someone else said that. Who said that? Oh, the teacher said. He's like, I think the piece lacks emotion. And she's like, emotion. I was like, yeah, freaking emotion. Where is it in the story? So that was 3:45. And then on 3:46, I was redoing the picture I'd shown Nagori. It felt easier to start over from scratch, so all I had was a fresh sheet with light pencil outlining what I wanted. I had read a blog post that Emily had made when I was searching for like agents to query. I was like, who's her agent? Because I thought our books would have been were somewhat similar. No. And she said that she had, oh, maybe she actually says it back here in her acknowledgments. Well, she had written this book 4 times, I think, from scratch. She just kept redoing it. And so I was like, yeah. Interesting. Emotion, I scoffed. This was surrealism. What did he mean, emotion? This was just supposed to be about the fantastical merging with reality. That pretty much sums up the book, right? Surrealism, she thinks, doesn't include emotion. Interesting insight into the author's mind, I think. Sorry, Emily. I know you're never going to watch this. Thank God. So blue tab. Mom. I think her mom is saying this. Oh, yes. Yeah, so she gave her the art set for Christmas. You use colors now, okay? She said. No color in your pictures for so long, but now you have good paint. And she still did not use colors. Sad. Sad. I can see them in the board. Sad. Axel was the first one to like, oh yeah, ultramarine. Duh. Yes, so blue tab, you had us all pretty worried. Your grandmother said you weren't really sleeping. Insomnia can do some pretty severe things to the mind and body, you know. So, is this magical realism? Are we to believe that the incense, obviously there were true stories she was seeing through this incense kind of trance that she'd go into. So, but the author knows there's something more that she could be writing. Disappointing. Yeah, the reveal about Fang, no emotion. The reveal about the actual title of the book, it's not even astonishing. It's just the color of after. Boring, and there you have it. And then one last thing. So, Axel says, I hate the way that we're... Oh, this was a good quote. So, Axel says, I hate the way that word is a tiny island of thought, packed with questions and expectations. I think that was my favorite quote of the book. So, I don't know how to rate it. If I don't like a book, or I don't think it's written to my standards or something, I don't know how to rate it. Is that bad? I just know I didn't enjoy reading it, but I can see that there is an audience, and I think the audience is young. And that's fine. I mean, young people need something. So Strange the Dreamer is like the antithesis of the Astonishing Color. It is the antithesis of Aristotle and Dante, okay? Both Laini Taylor and Benjamin, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, sorry, were established authors before those two books. And one went the very lazy way of writing, and the other went to the extreme. And I loved it. Strange the Dreamer. Anyone who does not like this book, I don't think they would like my book. In fact, I think Strange the Dreamer is probably a more accurate comp title, except if I said, I don't know. It's, if anyone compared my writing to Laini Taylor, I would be so freaking complimented. This was amazing. This was beautiful. This was wonderful. I do have a couple complaints, but it was so good. So what did I want to say? Oh, colors. When you write a book, your palette consists of words. The words are the colors. So when you say, I felt ultramarine, you are not doing the hard work of finding out what you are actually feeling and describing it for the reader so that they can feel what you're feeling, so they can have that emotional connection, okay? Right? This is why you lack emotion. This book dives so deep into it. I made lists of words that I had never even heard of to look up, and as a writer, finding a new word is finding a new color to paint with. Finding a new color to dazzle the reader with, okay? And Laini Taylor is amazing. I am so impressed, and the fact that okay, so interesting how Strange the Dreamer, The Astonishing Color of After, and The Song of Achilles, they all dealt with ghosts, and there were ghosts and gods and death. So Achilles had gods and death, ghosts, Astonishing Color. All right, so you get so I thought that was interesting. And first 15 lives of Harry August dealt with death too, but I'm just repeating over and over. Maybe it's to my detriment that I don't know about Greek mythology, because I think maybe that went towards inspiration, towards Strange Dreamer. All of the pink, is that right? I think it's all of the pink tabs were, alright, so see all the pink tabs? That was like foreshadowing or the clues. And I don't know. I don't really read, so I don't really know how in depth other writers go with the clues they drop. So maybe this was just very obvious from the beginning about Laszlo, like who he actually is. But at one point I started marking, because I was like, these things are kind of adding up. Let's just start marking. Yeah, there's a lot of things, so it shouldn't come as a surprise. Yeah, it was so good. What did I want to say? What do I want to say? Let's see. So the whole moth thing, moths come out of her being, and she's able to enter people's dreams through her moths. And I always thought, that's an interesting choice, the moth. And then when she met Laszlo, so many tabs. I want to say it, but where is it? I thought yes. So, let's see. So she met Laszlo, and then her moths were in his room. He opened the door and halted on the threshold. Moths. moths were perched on the wooden headboard. Moths were everywhere, and I was like, oh, like moths to a flame. I get it. I get it. That is right up my alley. Laini Taylor is a writer of my own heart. I will be reading Muse of Nightmares. Someone like stole the book from the library, and so I'll have to request it from another library because I would like to read the physical copy. When I said I know what happens in that book, I basically only know that Minya is highly focused on, and so I thought that wouldn't interest me, but I am really curious about Minya. I hope that we go back to Theon Nero. I hope we learn more about Errol Fane. Like, at one point when I was reading them in the dream, Sarai, don't know how to pronounce her name, and Laszlo, I was like, I love this. I freaking love it. But wasn't there a whole other cast of characters? And so the book is already, how long? I think my book is this long. The sad thing is that if Laini Taylor was not already an established author, could she have gotten this published? Because of its length, because of its, like, the amount of time she spends just in a dream with Laszlo, and I don't know. And so it kind of reminds me of my book. Like, I think my book is not what debut novels are, because publishers want to know that you're going to make them money. So you have to be established first. Anyway. So it was on 440 when I was like, oh, moths to a flame. And then on 462, let's see. So she spent like pages talking about them kissing, and I was like, yes, I love it. Thank you. So they're kissing and everything. That was not. Oh, so Theon Nero, he comes to the window and he sees Laszlo sleeping, and Laszlo is dreaming about kissing Sarai. I should look up how to pronounce her name. So that's not what Theon Nero saw when he came to peer on Laszlo's window. Not lovers and no beautiful blue maiden, just Laszlo alone dreaming, and somehow radiant. He was giving off bliss, Theon thought, the way a glaive gives light. And I was like, yep, like moths to a flame. That is exactly right. So that made me really happy. Theon, very selfish character, and Laszlo, very giving, very generous. He's always there to help, and so they're like opposites. I saw in one review someone thinking that it was wasted potential not to have Laszlo and Nero fall in love, and so I was keeping my eye out on that dynamic, and I didn't even see any chemistry like that. I saw just two interesting characters, but I didn't see any chemistry, so I am completely fine with the way Laini Taylor went with this story, except for the part that I feel like there were other characters that I wanted more from as well. Even the up in the Citadel, I wanted like all of them. I like them all. So Theon Nero, he sees these moths, and so let's see. And so he throws a stone at the moth, and it wakes Laszlo up. Sorry to interrupt whatever it was, Theon continued. Though really you should thank me. He tossed a spare pebble over his shoulder to skitter across the paving stones. There are moths everywhere. They were all still there, settling on the ceiling beams. Oh, I'm sorry. There are moths everywhere. That's what Theon said. They were all still there, settling on the ceiling beams. There was even one on your face. And so, thinking about Theon seeing all of these moths, and Laszlo was pissed that he interrupted the dream. And the funny thing is, that was probably the nicest thing Theon Nero has ever done. is so funny. So I have all these tabs. Why do I have all these tabs? Oh, foreshadowing. Please, Laini Taylor, if Muse of Nightmares does not follow up, if this was not foreshadowing, then I'm going to be very mad. The foreshadowing was, I guess that is something I wanted to say. The foreshadowing, I think, comes on 522. Please, 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 don't let me down. Sparrow's sorrow was manifest in the withering of flowers around her feet. Her gift, which they had never even known worked in reverse, was leeching the life out of all the plants she touched. So Sarai did not know that she could create dreams rather than nightmares. Sparrow did not know she could kill vegetation. She thought she could only grow it, which, please, at that point I was like, let Minya's gift, not, if it worked in reverse, then it would not, she would be able to put the soul back in the body. That's what I thought. And if Sarai, if that is not like Minya's redemption arc where she gives Sarai back her soul, we'll see. So I found this funny on 505. They're talking about blue, the color blue, because all these, like, the gods are blue, little god spawn. Thinking about them being babies and their little blue babies. So all this talk about blue. Never had a color meant so much, so deeply. After Laini Taylor talks about the color blue, and I was like, exactly. The astonishing color of after. You didn't even explain any of the meanings behind these colors that you're using. Whew. So, oh, my yellow text, let's see. Oh yeah, so finally, I love names. I love looking up the meaning of names. And I was kind of like not wanting to look up the meaning of the names because I thought it might spoil something. And at 306, I broke and I looked up Laszlo and it was King of the People. And I was like, yep, I'm pretty sure I know where this is going. And so I looked up Sarai, and that means princess. And the interesting / disturbing thing, I don't really know why. I don't think I would write this, but Sarai met Laszlo in Errol Fane's bedroom. Laszlo was in Errol Fane's bed. Errol Fane is Sarai's father. And so the first time Sarai meets Laszlo, it's in her father's bedroom, in his bed. Their first kiss was in her father's bedroom. And she looks exactly like her mother. And so I was like, there's some weird dynamic thing going on. But it made perfect sense to me because she was going looking for her father, but then she found Laszlo. And is there some kind of Freud thing in that? I don't know, but it kind of is weird. I feel like, but see, there was so little of Errol Fane in this book that I don't really know about him. I want to know more. At first I thought it was going to be that he fell in love with Isabel, but no, that they didn't say that at all. I was going to say something. Shoot, what was I going to say? The writing style. Again, this is something that they say do not do, and yet Laini Taylor freaking did it, and it is head hopping, essentially, explaining what everyone is thinking, which when I realized in my book that I was doing that, I went and I fixed it. There are a few times I do it deliberately because I feel like I had no choice but to. So this kind of feel like, on one level, it feels kind of lazy, but on another level, I feel like, yes, I liked knowing what everyone was thinking and what everyone was doing, and so I, the like, just her voice is so beautiful. Maybe a bit too flowery for people, and I personally love this kind of writing, but in my book, the main characters are both male, and so I had to very consciously reel that in so it wasn't as flowery as I would have naturally written. And so I thought that was interesting because she is not holding back at all. Not one bit. Trying to see if there are any other kind of is there anything else I wanted to say about this? Oh yeah, so what are gods? This seems like they're aliens to me. Oh, before I forget, the quote that I had read a couple videos back, it's not about Strange the Dreamer. It was about the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy. I guess I got a little confused because in all these other books, the quotes on the back are from those books, except for Thanks for the Trouble. That was from his other book. She loves teeth. I had read reviews about the Daughter of Smoke and Bone at one point, and I think, if I remember correctly, the character steals teeth. Something happens with teeth. And so it made me kind of smile every time Laini Taylor brought up teeth in this book. Like, she is like, teeth are mine. Oops. Teeth are my thing, and nobody else is going to be able to claim teeth. So now I have to take all these little tabs out. Oh, that's another thing I was going to say. The insta-love. I think I can accept it in this case because he is Strange the Dreamer and she is the Muse of Nightmares, and they met in a dream and he could see her, and it turned out that he was one of them. Why was his skin not blue? How did he turn into like human? So I'm hoping Muse of Nightmares answers that question. There are a lot of questions, and I'm trusting you. Trusting you, Laini Taylor. But the thing is, there were so many other characters that she didn't really, it's like, it's difficult because I feel like she went to them enough, but at the same time, she did not. And if the Muse of Nightmares is going to be heavily focused on Minya, then how are we going to really... I know Minya hates Errolfane, but like, what about Thyon Nero? I feel like we kind of just dropped off. And Callie, I don't know how to pronounce her name, I just call her Callie. Like, where are these other characters at? So I need my answers. I need my answers about why Laszlo was able to not be blue, and if the foreshadowing that I saw about the gift being used in reverse as well, I hope that comes to fruition. Yeah, so since my library doesn't have Muse of Nightmares, I have to request it, and so I think that will be a November. I think I'll try and read that in November. So all the stars, 5 out of 5. Freaking loved it. A pleasure. An absolute, not one thing was boring. Every single page was fantastic. Anyone who doesn't understand this book, I think they're just maybe they're reading too fast. Maybe reading slow is the way to go. Oh, I have another tab. What was this one? Oh yes, I realized, I said maybe Laszlo is the son of Scathis on 400. And then I was like trying to think about how old Minya was, because I was like, isn't Minya his daughter? And I was like, I think they're the same age. And I was like, oh, I think is she a year older than him? Is she 21 or is she 20? And no one else in this book except for Thea and Nero is that age. So I was like, are they twins? And yeah, they're not twins. They're a year apart. And so please, I hope we get more of Laszlo's backstory. I can't imagine that we wouldn't. Because in Strange the Dreamer, Laini Taylor, she recalls things that she's written, and she brings it back, she ties it together, and I recognize that very well because that's what I did in my book. And so I was like, good, that means you know what you're writing and you are actively connecting these threads for the reader, to show that you had purpose for what you did. And so one would imagine that the threads in this book will connect very nicely to the threads in the next. Very impressed. Very happy to have read it. Very happy to have read all 7 books within the month of September. And I have to figure out how to really categorize these videos and how I want to make them, because I can't talk about the books in the kind of detail I want to talk about if I have so many. So will I make a video every like 2 books? Will I make a video every book? I can't do that. I don't know. So thank you for watching. If you did, that's kind of impressive because I don't think my video is making it to anyone. It's okay. It's okay. I just got to get it out of my system, you know? And I think that's it. So hopefully, if you've read those books, hopefully, you know, I don't know. If you haven't read the books that I liked, you should read it. Even the one I didn't really like, and then you could see if, you know, I'm completely just misinformed about things. I don't know. So I will be making my TBR for October. I'll have that up soon, and then I'll get into reading my next batch. It's like a never-ending thing, right? Okay. I don't know. Yes, I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.